Three of them.
Yeah.
They were pretty good.
I'm ready.
Here's the sign.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Board LPA special meeting for Thursday, April 24th, 2025. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Chairperson Kakwama,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Michael Ferranti,
Here.
Board Member Rachel Hood. Here. Board Member David Macon,
Here.
and Board Member Louis Halal.
Here. All right. If we could please stand for a moment of silence and the pledge. Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tristan, are there any agenda changes?
No, sir. Not that I know
All
of.
right. Okay, let's see, no awards or presentations, nothing on the informational agenda, so we will open it up to the first public input. If anybody didn't receive any requests, but if anybody has anything that they would like to speak on that is not one of the agenda items for this evening, they're welcome to do so at this time. Anybody? Seeing and hearing none, we will close the first public input and move on to the consent agenda. No items there, so public hearings, item number 400. Staff have a presentation?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tara Lynn Roll, Director of Community Development. Item 400. The applicant is EPB Engineering, and the location is a parcel of 5.88 acres on the northeast corner of Tuscaloosa Road and Michael Blake Road. You have the parcel numbers in your application packet. The parcel's located in Town Center T5 Transect in the urban center zone. And the proposal is for the development of an Ace Hardware store, as well as a subdividing of the property that will come before you later on before City Commission. So with this project, staff went through all of the standard reviews. Well, before I get to that, the public noticing for this particular meeting was sent out on April 15th, and the community workshop was held on November 14th, 2023. So this project got started quite a while ago. Also included in your packet, can you show the slide with the aesthetic review? The aesthetic review for this project was approved in 2023, but this application here is for the final engineering and development plans, site plan, for waiver applications, and for the development agreement. But just as for information, this here is the aesthetic plans that were approved in 2023. This is the front facing of the building that would be interior to the parking lot, and below, slide down for me. And the next one. And then this would be the entrance on Michael Blake. So you pull up the site plan for me, Tristan? Okay. So staff conducted a review of the various aspects of the various analysis for evaluation of the site plan, that it meets the town center requirements and engineering requirements. Also, the traffic impact analysis and the various reports that were submitted. And the review for water and sewer, stormwater, transportation, parking analysis, and waiver applications. So just as far as our procedural history The site plan was submitted in September of 2023. As I mentioned, a community workshop was in November of 2023. The waiver application was submitted in March of 2025. And we are here with Planning and Zoning today. And if recommended for approval by the board, they would go before City Commission on May 12th. There were 6 waiver applications submitted with this application. The first one is for a drive-through on the side yard of the property on Tuscaloosa. It'll be over here, Tuscaloosa Road. For this drive-through, would be facing the side yard on Tuscaloosa. The second waiver was for lot sizes to exceed that of the town center standard of 180 width by 160 depth. 2 additional waivers for a monument sign on Tuscaloosa Road and a monument sign on SR 434. The 5th waiver was for a statistical tree survey in lieu of a standard tree for tree and location survey. And the 4th waiver was for the removal of the one specimen tree. So regarding these, all of the waivers were approved or recommended for approval by staff, with exception of the drive-through on the side yard, primarily because when the application was submitted, the transportation impact analysis that's included in the packet does not factor in that drive-through. But the applicant has requested to keep it on the plans and wants it to be considered still. So of all of those 6 waivers, that's the one waiver that the staff is not recommending approval. With that, there are 7 conditions of approval in terms of staff recommendation. And I failed to mention, so this is going to be for an Ace Hardware store over here, a store in the garden area, and then 3 additional retail spaces. And this drive-through would be affiliated with this space here. So for this proposal, staff recommends approval with the following condition. First condition is that proposed uses for the additional tenant spaces will be a permitted use in the T5 Town Center Transact or shall receive a conditional use approval from the City Commission. The second condition is approval of both St. Johns River Water Management District Environmental Resource Permit for the project, as well as the approval of the ERP permit from the city. This property drains into a pond in the Tuscaloosa community, Tuscaloosa Crossings community, and the city had submitted an application to the Water Management District for regarding the repair of that pond. I believe, as of yesterday, I was informed that that permit should be issued shortly. But nonetheless, we do have that condition of the project receiving permit approval from the district prior to there being any building permits before any construction and clearing. Okay. The third condition, like I mentioned, there is a plat application in, and that's going to be heard a little bit later. However, prior to final plat approval, the applicant owner shall record covenants and restrictions for the property owners association that will be responsible for perpetual maintenance of the common infrastructure for the Sutton Crossings Shopping Center. The owner shall include a provision in the covenants and restrictions acknowledging and advising that the parking lot may flood and serve as a retention area for water impoundment during both the 25-year 24-hour and 100-year 24-hour storm events. The covenants and restrictions shall contain a lease, hold harmless, and indemnification provisions for all claims related to the flooding of the parking area as a result of the design of the approved engineering plans against the City of Winter Springs. So we've received all of that, and that's under review. Fourth condition, an economic impact analysis report as required by the Town Center Design Standards shall be reviewed and approved by staff prior to being heard before the City Commission. Fifth condition, the applicant shall be required to revise the final engineering plans to remove the drive-through land and window for Retail Suite C and continue the streetscape from Michael Blake. And that's tied to staff not recommending approval for that drive-through. Condition 6, the planning and zoning recommendation of approval is contingent upon the City Commission's approval of the right-of-way vacation. That'll be going with their packet. If recommended for approval, that will be before City Commission on May 12th. And then condition number 7, that was the arbor review and the waiver requesting a statistical tree survey versus the standard. And that the applicant will be required to pay the $52,800 for the removal of trees 4 to 9 inch DBH, and that's 176 trees. 176 tree credits, and then 89 mitigation credits, or $26,700 for the removal of trees 10 inch DBH and greater. So that has to be paid before they get the tree clearing and land clearing permits. Condition number 8 is tied to the waiver or the request to remove this specimen tree, and they would be required to pay 8 mitigation credits for the removal of that one tree, which is in the building footprint, And condition 9, execution of a development agreement prior to the issuance of tree removal and land clearing permits. Condition 10, there shall be no retail sales, manufacturing, or compounding of any products derived from the hemp plant or cannabis plant, including CBD. And then final condition is all grass on the property shall be Bahia grass, no St. Augustine grass, or grass types with low drought tolerance. And that is a summary of the staff report. We do have representatives here from the ACE/Sutton Crossings team, the applicant, the engineer of record, as well as counsel, land use attorney. So if you have questions for them, they're here to do that. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Thanks, Terralyn. Does the applicant have a presentation or wish to make a statement before we begin questions or discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a statement. So my name is Wes McMillan. Address is P.O. Box 1013, Oakland, Florida, 34760. So I'm with the Ace Hardware. We're a multi-owner operator of Ace Hardwares in Central Florida. This will be our 5th location. And I appreciate Terralyn giving the presentation. I really don't have anything to add to her presentation. I think it covered the site well, so we're happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Let's open it up for any discussion. Anybody want to start?
There's, I want to get back to the specific conditions and specifically related to the eagle nest that's on the property. The condition noted a 330-foot buffer, but I didn't hear that read, and I apologize if I'm looking at a couple of different where both
Right.
of these are
Yeah.
set up, but I didn't hear anything
Yeah.
about that.
I believe there is a former Eagle's Nest. Currently, it's being occupied by great horned owls.
Right.
So I will speak to that. We did work with the city, I believe it was in 2023, and the Federal Wildlife Services, and we obtained a permit, and that eagle nest and tree has since been removed. So that was from about 2 years ago. So that is, that's no longer an issue on this site.
Okay.
So you got an incidental take permit?
Yes, sir, we
Or
did.
you got a nest removal?
We got a nest removal permit, and we
And-
worked with the, and that's part of the application that we sent in. We did work with Federal Wildlife Services and the City of Winter Springs to do that eagle nest take
Okay.
permit.
Well, and so that'll just have to become part of the package at, when they go to pre-construction.
For the, while I have you up, for the Ace Hardware, there are other tenants within the same building. Are any of the other operators or tenants known at this time?
We do have 2 of the 3 tenants under a lease agreement right now. One is CC's Nail Salon. They're a multi-tenant nail salon. They have other operations. The other is Tropical Smoothie Cafe, which is the group that had requested the drive-through on the end cap.
Okay. Yeah, that basically was why I was asking about.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to speak on the staff's recommendation on denying the waiver for the drive-through?
So it would be our request that we do have that waiver approved, but, and our request would be based off of our tenant's use case is what they would be utilizing the drive-through for. We did go through and we updated the landscape architectural package to include additional landscaping and buffer along that area. And the current landscaping package, I know one of the comments was about the landscape streetscape for Tuscaloosa going along the entire length of Tuscaloosa. So that is currently in the package. It shows the streetscape across all of Tuscaloosa, but we would appreciate consideration to the end cap drive-through if that is a possibility.
Am I correct that the architectural renderings that are included in our agenda packet do not reflect the drive-through?
That is correct.
Okay, so we currently we don't know what it looks like.
We don't, from the, I guess, architectural standpoint, the aesthetics of the building would not change. It's still the same layout, but there would be, as you're aware, it would have a pickup window on the end cap. And again, this was a request of the tenant, so we said we would try and work with the city to see if it was possible. And if we wanted to come to this meeting to see if there were additional requirements that you guys might have that we present to you guys or present to the commission to see if we could get that approval.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Other discussion items?
I had a couple of questions on the stormwater components. So I was curious if the pervious pavement described in this applied to the rest of the parking lots that would be in the Sutton's Crossing, or if this was just specific to this piece of development.
Sure. So Kyle Morrell, Bowler Engineering, engineer of record, 600 Northwest Shore, Tampa, Florida. So your question was on the, can you ask it one more time, please?
So in the packet, it specified that pervious pavement would be used for this particular parking lot, and I was curious if that was the plan for the other sites in the Sutton Crossing development, or if that's specific to this.
It's just specific to this use.
Okay. The other question I had was it specified that there was holding tanks. Like, what's the holding capacity, the storm intensity that's been designed against?
Great question. So we have two above-ground stormwater ponds right now. They're both walled. And then we have an underground chambers, the plastic half domes. Those have capacity for, it's more than the 25-year, but just less than the 100-year, which is why we have an inch or 2 inches of ponding in the vicinity of where the inlets are. There'll be a little bit of surcharge, but the system itself can handle 25-year without adverse impacts.
Okay. And then what's the holding time on that? I know it said it was going to discharge to, but the pond at the Tuscaloosa crossings, but I just have a lot of concerns because that's, I mean, I know that it's going to be repaired, but, you know, with I'll be honest, a 25-year storm doesn't really feel appropriate for this area, given the intensity of the storms we've been experiencing that have far exceeded 25-year storms, and with all the residential neighborhoods there, you know, that's a lot of residential downstream flooding.
So I know our requirements from the district and from the city were to more or less attenuate the flows from the 25-year rate.
Okay.
And then we are discharging at a rate of no more than 12 cubic feet per second in the 25-year event, which is was what our allowable was.
Okay. That's the only questions I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, Louis, anything
So-
from either of you?
You have an entrance off of Tuscaloosa Road and also off of the boulevard. But if you don't get approval for the drive-through, what are your plans for that? It's on all the drawings that I'm looking at.
So we do have an entrance off of, as you mentioned, off of Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa is a main curb cut, and then we've got a curb cut to the east of the garden center for the Ace Hardware. And then the drive-through there. In our earlier application, prior to our submittal in August of 2024, we had that as just an oversized patio. At that time, we did not have the tenant assigned to the space, so that's kind of how we got to that change.
So if you don't get approval for the drive-through, will that little driveway be there?
No, sir, the driveway would not be there if we do not have the
Okay.
drive-through.
That's all I have.
Is there a concern that people will be using the drive-through to access and not actually use the drive-through?
No, sir, we don't have that
You don't
concern.
have that concern?
We'll have do not, and I don't want to speak to the traffic engineer, I'm not a traffic engineer, but it would be a one-way traffic, specifically more utilized for a pickup window than a traditional drive-through, but it would be used solely for that.
I'm thinking of the tropical smoothies in the area. I don't think they have drive-throughs, right, in this area?
Some of them do not in this area. The tenant has requested that, though.
Did they own all their tropical smoothies, you know?
They do.
Okay, so,
Excellent.
so let's talk traffic a little bit. My main concern in the drive-through is the spacing from Tuscaloosa. The driveway, or where Michael Blake Boulevard intersects Tuscaloosa, is unsignalized. And the traffic analysis that was provided reflects the conditions that I experience whenever I'm trying to get from 434 to Tuscaloosa, and I'll use Michael Blake. If I want to make you rarely get right turns there. Most people are going there in order to cut across the triangle and make a left on Tuscaloosa. There is often a queue there, and there's not much spacing between where Tuscaloosa is and where this drive-through is. So I think that there's going to be an operational issue there. I don't know what's going to happen if anybody's coming out of that drive-through and wanting to make a left. it's going to be hard enough for them to make a right, and especially if they want to make a left on Tuscarora after that, because they'll have to cross over that right turn lane in order to get there. Michael Blake Boulevard is undivided, so they could make a left out of the drive-through to head towards 434. So operationally, I do have some concerns.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to voice that. The second question I have with respect to the layout and circulation, the driveway that you have off of Michael Blake, on the site plans, it shows a, coming out of the driveway, it has a right turn arrow. Is the intent that this would be, if you're exiting the site onto Michael Blake, you would only be making right turns?
I will defer that to Kyle with Bowler. I do want to address the other point with the drive-through, though, before
Sure.
Kyle comes up and addresses the point on the right turn off of Michael Blake. If there are other conditional uses or restrictions, or, yeah, I guess conditional use may be the correct word for having the drive-through on the end cap there, you said you were concerned about a left turn. If we made that a right turn only and added additional restrictions to it, it's something that we would be open to if the city is open to that. But I'll let Kyle speak to the
Sure.
right turn on.
Thank you.
Yeah, more or less agree with what Wes said. If it means if we get recommendation for approval to just have a right out, I think we'd be amenable to that.
Okay. Now, looking at the driveway that's on the kind of the east side of the structure, the driveway that's coming out, that's the two-way driveway. All the site plans show the right turn arrow coming out. Is the intent for it to be a right turn exiting the site?
That should be a full access.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it was pretty evident, but yeah, right here, unless I'm mistaken, it shows the right arrow right there.
Check with my team. Correct, that should be full access.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to get clarification because Michael Blake Boulevard is not divided,
Right.
we would want to, if the intent or if your conversations with city staff was meant to make that a right in, right out, we would want to see some kind of raised barrier to help channelize those right turns.
Absolutely.
Terilyn, was there any concern by staff for that access being full?
Our primary concern was regarding the dumpsters right here.
Yeah,
And given
okay.
it's full access, but we did get a letter from Waste Pro confirming their hours of location and also confirming that they could access the dumpsters adequately. But other than that, we didn't have any other
Okay.
concerns.
All right. Let's see. The other concern with the drive-through window, no. Yeah, was that you would have potentially pedestrians crossing there, but that's minor. You can stripe that and get the crosswalk. It's just another conflict point. Let's see. If I can speak to the monument sign, can you describe where those monument signs are? And there are two, I believe, one on Tuscarora and one on 434.
Oh, I can figure this out. Let me see. Sorry, I'm colorblind. I can't see it.
Oh,
Is it up there? Or am I hitting the wrong button?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see it now. Gotcha. There's one where Terra Lynn is, and then there's one, there's not a monument sign on Michael Blake if you're pointing there. There is a monument sign up on State Road 434. If we scroll up a little bit on the page, right there.
Okay. No, on 434, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. So,
That's the master monument sign there.
so question on the monument sign, because and this combines with the next agenda item, but however, I think it's pertinent to bring it up now. I believe that Chick-fil-A is also proposing a monument sign. Are those monument signs in the same position or same locations? And if so, can we just consolidate them instead of having multiple signs with, different themes and looks? I don't want to have start having different signs as we're going down 434. If we can find a way to consolidate, I'd like to do that.
The Chick-fil-A, I believe they're having a sign, at the Michael Blake entrance, is that correct?
Okay.
And, is the other one gonna be over here? I'll have to pull up the plan.
So is that where one of the monument signs for Sutton Place going to be?
Yeah, you can.
Hi, Nim Robinson with the Ferber Company. We're the developers for the Chick-fil-A parcel, business address 102nd Street Avenue in St. Petersburg. So I just wanted to clarify, for our development for Lot 4A, which is the Chick-fil-A, we have a monument sign that's located right there at the corner of Michael Blake Boulevard and State Road 434.
Okay.
And then we have another monument sign located, I believe, at this location. And those would be specific to our project.
Okay. And those locations are different from the monument signs that are being proposed for the Ace Hardware? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and then the Chick-fil-A sign has lettering and will probably, have specials or whatever, and so they like to have their own.
Tara Lynn, how many mobility strategies were required for this particular site? Do you recall?
We have some bike parking. Let's see here. There we go.
Might have been one of the things that I missed in the 1,700-page packet.
Talking about handicaps?
Let's see.
No.
Triggers the need for one mobility credit.
Okay, just one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then they're providing a bicycle rack?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, okay.
okay. Is their mobility credit independent of the one for the Chick-fil-A?
I believe so, because
Okay.
they're also, just one moment here. One moment. Sorry about that. Okay.
That's okay. Takes a while to page through it all.
No, we did not require any for the Chick-fil-A, but they also have a bike rack.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Currently, when Michael Blake and 434 was signalized, does anybody remember, are there pedestrian provisions or pedestrian crossings provided across 434? Okay. Yeah, none of the aerials I'm looking at are recent enough to show the signalization, so. Assuming that is the case, the Ace Hardware is going to continue the sidewalk along Michael Blake. Currently, it stops at Wooded Vine, and I believe the site plan does show the sidewalk continuing from Wooded Vine to Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
Okay. So my biggest issue, and it applies for both, so I'll both of the sites, so I'll mention it here. And I did look in, I might not have read all 1,700 pages, but I did at least page through them. I did not see anything from FDOT with respect to the current status of any driveway permit with respect to the connection to 434. So I want to bring that up now. We may be talking about it through the Chick-fil-A as well. Based on the volume of right turns and the FDOT Multimodal Access Management Guidebook from 2023, a right turn lane would be required on State Road 434 into the site. In addition, 434 is Access Management Class 3, which means a minimum spacing of 440 feet. The proposed location of the driveway would not meet spacing. I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I would want to see something from FDOT stating that they are acceptable to what is shown on the site plan. Even if it's just an email saying that there is an intent to approve.
So we can do that. We can get that communication from FDOT staff, but also, I believe we sat in on their preliminary application meeting with FDOT.
Okay.
And I believe the intent, at least for Chick-fil-A, if I'm not mistaken, they're constructing that drive, that they will be getting the permit from FDOT. That's not completed yet, but that's the intent. So we have that condition in their application because I believe they're building that.
Okay. I wish we knew the status because I would like to include a condition. Again, I don't need the permit necessarily approved, but at least having an email from the department that there is an intent to approve it, so that when this goes before City Commission, at that time, we would be comfortable that FDOT has looked at it and they're comfortable, because if not, then all of the assumptions on their traffic assignment and distribution will change, and which may impact the other two connections along Michael Blake Boulevard.
I don't know if anyone from the Ferber team or any team member has any updates regarding the FDOT permit.
So the latest we have from DOT is once we provide a signed cross-access agreement with the northern use, they will issue our full permit. So they've already agreed to the driveway, no turn lane, and pretty much all the technical items are complete, less a signed cross-access agreement, which we're happy to provide the latest paper trail.
Okay, so even if there is an email that just has that stated from whoever the permit coordinator is, I assume you started the process with Chad Lingenfelter over at DOT, and then there was a permit coordinator that was assigned to it. So as long as you have some kind of documentation that because otherwise you have 157 right turns going into that northern driveway, and if that northern driveway is not approved, those 157 all of a sudden will go down to Michael Blake Boulevard to add to whatever was assigned there in the traffic study as well. So we would like to know, make sure that DOT is okay with the spacing, that they do not require the right turn lane, and that that those 157 will be able to make that turn.
Absolutely. We can get that email trail over to Tara Lynn if that would work.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you be comfortable if we recommended adding that condition that they're at
No
least-
issue. No issue.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sir, I would like to speak on that matter, please, if I may, in terms of the DOT coordination. I know that our engineer had previously spoke where we would get that email confirmation, but again, we've gone through the review process with DOT. If anything, we could provide you with the actual permit approval that outlines not only their comment for review, but the conditions that they have where we need to provide, the cross-access agreement to the parcel north of us for them to be able to issue us this access permit, because they do understand that there's going to be a bit of, traffic and added trips here
Right.
to the site.
Yeah, and that's all I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm not looking for a reason to hold this up,
Sure.
but I do have concerns. What if DOT comes back and says, no, but we have a commission that has approved this? So what do we do at that point? So I want to make sure that what the traffic study shows is what, to the best of our ability, will happen in terms of the assignment and access for this site.
Yes, sir. And we're okay with the conditions of obtaining FDOT's approved access permit.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion?
What was the reason for not wanting to approve the driveway?
Chairman Ma mentioned a couple of them. We didn't have any specifications regarding the driveway other than on the site plan indicating that it would be there. But, and like I mentioned, I think in the waiver review, staff recommended that a revised or updated traffic or queuing analysis be submitted. We didn't have that. We also didn't have any specifications regarding the actual window location based on what's proposed. So it was just based on information we didn't have. All we had was this driveway that was included in the plan. So if we had that information, then it would have been used to make a recommendation.
Yep, and I echo the same thing. I would want to see some kind of additional analysis to be comfortable that the driveway will operate.
Yeah, and we did mention in the staff report, the analysis not being done, but also the proximity to Michael Blake at Tuscaloosa. And so
Right.
that's the recommendation to deny at this time.
The traffic study includes analysis at the other driveways. We don't have one for the drive-through access. So there's just too many, at least from a operation standpoint, there's too many unknowns for me. But, thank you.
So if we do recommend approval, we would have to recommend approval of Sands driveway. Drive-through.
Yeah. That is one of the conditions that are listed in the staff report, actually.
Yeah. It
That they
says
would
that they
remove-
would need to submit what's required
Right.
to be considered before City Commission.
And for the, just to, for the applicant, just to let you know, again, we're just a recommending body. I'm taking what the staff report says, as well as the agenda packet, and my personal expertise to generate our recommendation here, along with the rest of the board. And that gets brought forth in front of City Commission. They can take that recommendation and accept it, change it, or between that time, if you are able to get additional data that can be provided, that may help sway them one way or the other as well. Okay.
I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
It's for Tara Lynn. I was just curious about the staff recommendation number 10 and where that's coming from about there being no retail sales, manufacturing, or compounding of any products derived from the hemp plant or cannabis plant. I'm just curious, like, why that restriction if it's not precluded from acceptable uses in the zone?
Oh, regarding the CBD, because that's not allowed. So
Okay.
we're just saying outright.
That was just my question, why it was, if it's not allowed, then I'm just curious why it was explicitly called out.
It's really not allowed.
That's fine, it
Well,
felt superfluous, to me,
And
I guess.
so that
if
it's on the
not-
record for this project.
Got it,
Yeah.
that's fine. I just was, if it wasn't allowed, it seemed funny that it was on there, but I understand.
We like to formally advise the applicant of the same.
Understood.
One last question, and with respect to parking, the parking spaces that are adjacent to the front of the building, are there wheel stops on those spaces, or are vehicles permitted to overhang onto the sidewalk? And I'm only asking because there are the sidewalk width appears to vary, and I'd want to just have a better understanding of what the width would be if vehicles had overhang.
So at the moment, we don't have any wheel stops or bollards. Typically, there's a 2-foot overhang, so the sidewalks we have up front should be at least 7 feet wide so that there's still a 5-foot ADA path.
Okay, all right. No, that answers my question. If those sidewalks are 7 feet, then I would be comfortable with the vehicle overhang. All right. Anything else? No?
Can we make a recommendation for approval without the drive-through?
Yes, because that's one of the conditions.
Conditions, yeah.
Yeah, so
I mean,
so
they could-
if we make a motion to approve with the existing conditions, that would be included.
Okay, because I can see that since the other stores don't have drive-throughs, they can have a walk-up or just not have one at all.
Okay. So if there is no further discussion, I will open it up for a motion.
Sorry, I have
Oh.
one more
I'm sorry.
comment that I'd like
Sure.
to put in.
Mm-hmm.
Is I'm just really pleased to see the condition around the drought-resistant grass instead of a water-intensive grass being specified for this. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
And Mr. Chair, can we open up for public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Public, yeah.
Thank you.
public input.
I talk too much and forget these things. So at this time, we will open it up for public input on this agenda item. Anybody wishing to speak on this? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, we will close public input. And now I will ask for a motion. Anyone? You don't have to make a motion to approve either. You can add additional conditions. You can make a motion to recommend denial, or just, yeah, if the hesitation is because of one of those things.
If-
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve as submitted with the conditions provided by staff.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and second.
I'm sorry, can we just clarify, because we did put in the staff recommendation, so they're recommending approval of waivers 2 through 6, one being the drive-through. So just to be clear, the motion is to approve the waivers 2 through 6, correct?
Correct.
Right.
And,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
leaving off the drive.
And leaving off, thank
No
you.
drive.
I have just questions about the drive-through, just for clarity, so I can make my assumptions. When you're coming onto Michael Blake Boulevard, can you make a left into the drive-through?
No,
No, he
it's
said they
it's
were
one
gonna
way
have
out.
one way out.
Not the out. Okay, got you. Okay, perfect. That's all. That's
Yep.
my question. And then you're gonna put the right-only thing?
So that was our proposal on the drive-through would be, if there was a way to get that approved with the team, we wanted to bring that through. And we had talked to Tara Lynn about it, and she said that staff was going to reject it when we met a month ago, but that we could kind of discuss it with the team here to see if there were conditions that we might be able to add to get that approved, because that was something that our tenant had requested. And furthermore, to the point, we did the site, when the original traffic analysis was done, it had a total of 3 different QSRs on it, and now there's going to be 1 QSR with a drive-through. But understandably, the additional data from a traffic study, updated traffic study, was not included. But if that was something that we would be able to include for commission, we would appreciate that. But if not, we
Yep.
understand.
And, again, I think that it would go a long way. I know it's not a lot of time, but by May 12th, if there is additional information that you would want to present to the commission with respect to that, I just would want to be, as a transportation engineer, I'm currently not comfortable with the location without seeing additional analysis done for that location.
Okay. But it's not anything to do with it facing the Tuscaloosa. It's more on the kind of, without the traffic study, it's hard. Because that was kind of our original intent, was to bring this. It was our understanding
Yeah,
that.
the traffic
it was-
analysis is the easiest for me to hang my hat on.
Okay.
If you're asking if there's a preference of whether or not I would want to see that drive-through lane there or not from an aesthetic standpoint, I think there are ways around it with
Yes, sir.
respect to landscaping, and you had brought that up.
Yes, sir.
But I would want to see architecturally what that might look like as
Okay.
well.
No, fair. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Chairperson Ma,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Ferranti,
Aye.
Board Member Hood,
Aye.
Board Member Macon,
Aye.
Board Member Halal.
Aye. Okay, passes unanimously, and again, this is a recommendation to the commission. So thank you very much. Appreciate you entertaining all of my questions and the board's questions. Okay, so moving on, item 401.
Item 401 is for a Chick-fil-A quick-serve restaurant to be located at the intersection of Michael Blake Boulevard and SR 434. I'm sorry, Tara Lynn Roll, Director of Community Development. The applicant is Ferber Construction Management, and the property owner is Blue Orange Holdings. We have application for final engineering and site plan, aesthetic review, waivers, and first modification to the development agreement. Just regarding that first modification to the development agreement, the previous item 400 will have a joint development agreement with Blue Orange Holdings representing Chick-fil-A and EB Engineering, which is this Sutton Crossings ACE project. And so as this Chick-fil-A is on that site, this will be a modification to that development agreement that's recommended for approval in the previous application packet. So the application's for 5,576 square foot Chick-fil-A. Again, we went through all of the analysis and staff agreeing or that the engineering plans met the requirements for the various sections of the staff review. And the aesthetic review, let me go back, yeah. So for the aesthetic review application, we did have a resubmittal along with a waiver. Staff is approving that, but there was a waiver for the rear of the building. It's facing SR 434. And so we asked the applicant to revise those elevations for the building to have the appearance of a full front entrance, and you'll see that later on. The applicant has a presentation for you. But regarding this application packet, again, as far as procedure, we had the community workshop in October of 2024, and the noticing for this meeting was sent out on April 15th. So regarding the waiver applications, there were 4 of them. The first is to allow a drive-through on the side yard versus the rear alley of the property per town center code. This Chick-fil-A has the big double wraparound drive-through. The second waiver was for a deviation from the 434 streetscape 27-foot landscape buffer. It pretty much meets all of the requirements with the exception of the 6-foot sidewalk. There's an existing 5-foot sidewalk, and so the waiver is to just continue with the 5-foot sidewalk instead of the 6-foot. As mentioned in the previous application, they are requesting 2 monument signs, one at the intersection of Michael Blake and 434, and the other at the Michael Blake entrance of the Sutton Crossing site. And then I did mention the 4th waiver I actually already mentioned. So the first waiver is for the drive-through on the side yard. The second waiver is for the rear of the building facing 434, in addition to the streetscaping waiver and the monument sign. So for this application, all of the waivers are recommended for approval, and I will get to the staff conditions for approval, recommendation of approval. First condition is to execute the first modification to the development agreement. And second, it's approval of the project is conditioned upon the approval of the Sutton Crossings final engineering plans, which provides for access, utilities, and stormwater drainage to the subject site. So just an FYI, the Sutton Crossings ACE project did the master planning for stormwater and drainage, et cetera. The third condition is the project will either show compliance with 330-foot Eagle Net Protection Zone prior to the approval of a building permit. I think they spoke to that already. Condition 4, a small wetland exists on the site. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the St. Johns River Water Management District ERP regarding this wetland shall be provided. Condition 4, an economic impact analysis report as required by the Town Center Code shall be reviewed and approved prior to the project being heard by City Commission. Condition 6, an FDOT approved access connection permit shall be provided prior to the issuance of the building permit. Condition 7, prior to the issuance of the building permit, that hydrant flow tests in accordance with NFPA 291 be done within 12 months. As for the previous project, all grass in the property shall use Bahia grass, no St. Augustine, or any grass with low drought tolerance. And finally, any conditions from the city reviewing departments and/or this reviewing body shall be enforceable. And with that, I can answer any questions, or actually, the project representatives have a presentation. Do you want to hear that first?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we'll cue that up and have them to come and present that.
Thank you, Tara Lynn. While they're pulling that up, for the record, McGregor Love, 215 North Yola Drive in Orlando. You all have an educational background that is dissimilar from my own. You all asked very technical questions. So if you have those for this, I may be asking Kyle or Nim to get up and answer them. But because Tara Lynn mentioned the elevations, those are included within my presentation. I'm not going to go through my entire presentation because the staff report is very thorough, and I'm finding out that you are very thorough and you do your homework. So we'll go to those elevations, but if you have other questions, I can use my presentation to answer those questions. I'll just briefly go through. Here are, we have two types of elevations. One is the sort of traditional two-dimensional, and then there's a rendering. And anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but the perspective view at the bottom left should be the portion that's actually facing 434. Is that correct, Tara Lynn? Yep. Again, I won't go through my whole presentation. If you have any questions about this or anything else, I'm happy to answer them or call somebody up who can. Thank you.
All right.
I have a question. The use of the dark brick was chosen for this Chick-fil-A because of,
My understanding, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, who was working through this with Tara Lynn, but I believe it was chosen because of the waiver request and because we knew that the rear portion of the building would face 434.
Hi, yes, Nim Robinson with the Ferber Company, developer for the Chick-fil-A parcel here. So as Tara Lynn had mentioned I believe back in October of 2024, we went through an aesthetics review. Our architects aren't here, but knowing that this is in your town center, T-5, they went into your design standards, and I believe going through that code requirement, knowing that there's a specific architectural requirement and standard along this corridor, our architect partners had designed this building based off of those standards.
Which is the view from 434?
It's
Would be the bottom left.
the bottom left, the
That's what I
perspective
thought.
view.
Yeah, the other side.
Because they queue around the rear of the building.
Okay.
I just wanted to correct that, and I'm so sorry about that. So the side that's going to be facing, 434 is the bottom left. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's,
I got
Michael,
disoriented.
it's the right side
And the
building,
top, and the top right
on
is
the,
also technical.
on the bottom left, and then the top,
Yeah.
the top right, it would be the left side of that one.
The left side, okay.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question? I just want to clarify, so there's no intent to change the bottom left elevation at this point?
I just wanted to mention that initially, the bottom elevation had no windows or any of what we're seeing there, was just plain. So this is their revision to the original submission.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I would like to revisit the eagle nest that is on this piece of land. It's a known nest that's come up in the past for different reasons. I don't know what particular applications, but so I understand that in the previous review, the previous hearing, it was stated that there was an incidental take permit or a nest tree take permit. So what I'm trying to understand is the timing of that, because the environmental report that's in this application is several years old. So it's seen several nesting seasons. Now, although the nest had previously been documented as being occupied by great horned owls, it's not unusual, although probably unlikely, that a nesting, a mating pair of eagles would win that battle to take that nest back. Regardless, I didn't see the actual permit in the submittal, and given the fact that, you know, there's been several nesting seasons, it seems to me like that this, unless the trees, and this is probably the bigger question, is the tree physically still there?
The tree is not physically still there. And we did have, we have ongoing requirements for the Federal Wildlife Services permit. After we removed the tree, we had to go back a year later and basically inspect the area again to ensure there were no eagles in the area. So we did pay, and we paid a permit fee for that. That is a 30-year permit fee, but the tree...
To U.S. Fish?
To U.S. Fish and Wildlife,
Right.
yes, sir.
Okay.
And the tree is gone, to answer your question.
And so, and now this next question is just a point of curiosity for me. How do you get a permit to remove that tree in the city without a development permit?
We worked with, our permit had been on the table for 2 years, and we were running out of time to execute that permit, so we worked, I'd have to go back and look at the documentation, but most of that was provided to the city. We worked with, I believe it was Kevin Maddox at the time, and then some other members of the city to get in alignment with them, because the Federal Wildlife Services group really wanted us to take the tree before nesting season. So we worked with that group and the city.
Okay.
Again, it was about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That connects some dots for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Before I go down my list?
I have two
Yeah, go for it.
comments on the environmental side. I was really curious why, I mentioned it before, but I was very curious why the parking lot was different. It was not using the pervious pavement that the Ace Hardware is using, just given the flood risk for that particular area and the downstream impacts to a residential area that's previously flooded.
So to clarify one of the previous remarks I made, the ACE no longer has pervious pavement. That was an old iteration. We've gone away from it. In our experience, the pervious pavement, it's very tough to maintain, and a lot of times it fails. We've also seen instances where it's so pervious that water rushes through and blows out the underside, and we get a lot of caving in. So where possible, we try to avoid using pervious pavement and flex to other best management practices.
Okay. That's definitely frustrating that it was included in the documentation in the previous submittal.
That was one.
That was
You
one.
said you had a couple.
I did have a second one around the wetland mitigation piece. I mean, it's more just a comment, I guess, than a question. I am just concerned as a transplant Floridian who appreciates the outdoors. There are many species who are dependent on these small wetlands, and I'm just concerned with, given our proximity to the rural boundary, that we would be removing this from our location.
Just a comment, was there consideration just to have one monumental sign?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question, please?
was there ever consideration just to have one monumental sign instead of two signs?
And Terlin, you'll have to correct me in terms of the code. I think for a development parcel, a project may be allowed to have two monument signs, correct? If they're abutting two different streets?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Monument signs are not permitted generally in the town
Right.
center at all.
Yeah, so the monument sign itself would be a waiver that's being requested. So, I mean, both of them are contained in the same waiver. So, Louis, to answer your question, they would not, in the town center district, they normally would not be allowed a monument sign. They're asking to have the two as part of the waiver.
Correct. I'm just saying, is there a need for both? Has there been consideration, just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying earlier, so you don't have so much signs? Could you just have maybe one sign?
We would like to request for two if possible, and as part of the waiver application. And if, depending on what your determination is, ideally we would like to have that one located at the corner of SR 434 and Michael Blake Boulevard. But we are requesting for two, please. And I just got word that we could go to one if that's the preference from the board.
I'm sure it's in the packet. I do remember seeing the monument sign. Does anybody remember how large it is?
I believe there's the dimensions of the sign and the elevations are included as part of the waiver packet.
You have the 6-inch letters.
Mm.
It's
Okay.
in the package.
So there's already a precedence for the monument signs. We see it for other locations in the town center district, including more recently the Aldi. They have a monument sign there that includes the Aldi and the Dollar Tree and I think the fitness center on one sign. And it's, in my opinion, not very obstructive. It doesn't deter away from the landscaping, but it's there. I would be curious to know how large the monument signs are that are being proposed for this site compared to the one that is in front of the Aldi. Okay, so this one, basically it's 7 feet by, 7 feet by about 12 feet, because if you count the base. So we have 7 feet wide by 12 feet tall. I don't know how big the one in front of Aldi is, but it probably is somewhere in that range. So given that the precedence is set, I don't feel that we need to, take that away. But to your point, Louis, I do kind of see what you're saying, and I wish that there was a means for you've got the Ace Hardware, you've got the Chick-fil-A. I don't want 434, which is kind of our main street, to become just this pattern of signs. And if there was a way that we could consolidate that would be my preference. But the fact that so if they were next to each other, I think I would have more of an issue with it. But they are proposed to be located in different areas. So to that end, I guess I'm just saying my piece.
Yeah, and that's fine. And also, just if I can comment, the color and the use of the brick, I'm not much of a fan aesthetically. I know you did the study. I think having a lighter brick color would look really nice, especially like a white color, to kind of match the neighborhood and the place right adjacent to this place.
Yeah,
personally.
I did notice that the Ace Hardware, the facade there was a lighter
A
color.
lighter color. I think
And
there's
so-
a white brick I've seen at Chick-fil-A, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you guys ever used that or,
Yeah.
but I'm not a fan of the dark color personally.
It's something that I have to bring up to our architect partners. And then also, please do keep in mind, following the site plan approval, our architect partners do have to take it into building permitting. And I believe at that point as well, they'll have to undergo certain code reviews and requirements during that time.
It's on the Wendy's dark brick.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Wendy's is more of a contemporary, modern facade. Yeah, so in looking at the two closest Chick-fil-A's, we have the one, that's actually another one on 434 in Oviedo. That one's pretty recent and is, the footprint is very similar to this one. And then there's another one that's a couple miles down, a few miles down on Tuscaloosa. That one's more squarish. And I was taking a look at the facades that were facing the major street. And the one in Oviedo, to me, is the part that faces 434 feels very active. They did a good treatment. Comparatively, if you take a look at the one that's down Tuscaloosa, in my opinion, it looks more back of house with the utility boxes, and it does. I think there are a couple faux windows, but it doesn't look as vibrant or as active. And so whenever I look at this, I wondered. I'm certainly not a exterior designer or whatever, but when looking at the part that would face 434, it does have the windows, but it's the only side that doesn't have the windows that go all the way down. For me, aesthetically, it feels like it would have been better if those windows were matched what's on the other three sides. Even if they're faux windows, it more completes the look a little bit more, in my opinion. But wanted to kind of see what anybody else thought on that.
I definitely concur. It's not harmonious with the other three sides of the building.
What was there a reason for the difference in the windows on that side? Even if they're, the faux windows? And how would you feel if we tried to match what's on the other sides?
Well, our architects aren't here,
Yeah.
and I'm no expert when it comes to reviewing their design standards and code. Again, I will take your comments and feedback and then relay that to the architectural team, and then, see what improvements that we can make.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there indoor playground in this Chick-fil-A? I'm just curious.
I think all the Chick-fil-A's have phased out all the indoor playgrounds because of liability, but I could be mistaken in case this one's different.
I'm hearing that there is
Oh.
an indoor
Okay.
playground. Yes,
Oh, there is, okay,
yes.
my mistake.
And the drive-through, it has the mobile drive-through versus, and the regular drive-through, correct?
Or is it just 2 lanes for
It's the-
regular drive-through?
Yeah, specifically, is there separate parking for the apps where people can just pull up and
Yes,
pick up?
yes, there is.
Okay.
But my question is, is one drive-through for mobile order only, like the one in Tuscaloosa? Do you know?
1 second, let me just clarify so that I don't
Okay.
misstate for the record.
Because the Oviedo one and the Waterford Lake ones, they have 2 drive-through, but it's like it merges and it's always backed up, maybe a half a mile.
Well, this one's two separate.
Two
Right,
separate, yeah.
two
I
separate,
think
yeah.
one's gonna be mobile order only.
So I'm hearing that it is up to the individual operator whether they want to dedicate a mobile-only lane, but there's not a dedicated mobile-only lane that's part of this site plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's talk traffic. Number one, I want to thank the applicant for having the foresight of the additional queuing analysis done by Palm Traffic, because having reviewed at least a dozen Chick-fil-A's in the past few years, Chick-fil-A's do operate differently than what the land use, ITE land use code says. And anybody can go during either the peak lunch hour or during the evenings and see that the drive-through lanes are much more congested, much more utilized than other fast food restaurants. So thank you for that. And the the one that was provided for Manatee County is very much like this, the footprint and the circulation. Manatee County, the dual lanes from the pickup window to the start of the lanes is about 525 feet. Is somebody able to tell me how long the queue is for this proposed? Because I was not able to see any dimensions, and my measurement skills were not working on the site plan. If it is somewhere thereabouts, I am fine with that, because the one in Oviedo is about 475. The one over on Tuscaloosa is somewhere thereabouts as well.
So the dimension we have on the outside lane is 546 feet.
Okay, thank you. The layout of the site, the only part that really gives me any, I can live with it, but if we're able to pull up the site plan, if you're coming from the Savoy or if you're heading north on Tuscaloosa and you turn on Michael Blake in order to get to the Chick-fil-A and want to go in the drive-through, do we have one of the Chick-fil-A? There we go. Yes, if we can zoom in on that. Excellent. Okay. I'm going to point to this one just so I don't accidentally blind Tristan. So if you're coming from Tuscaloosa and you turn on Michael Blake, or you're coming from Tuscaloosa Crossings or the Savoy and you turn in and want to go to the drive-through, I don't want to say it's impossible, because it isn't, but this seems like an awkward maneuver to come up here and make essentially about 140, 150 degree turn to get to the drive-through. Is there another solution that can soften that turn? You've got a very limited amount of space, and I do recognize that, but if the parking spaces here are taken, this turn would be difficult to make even with passenger vehicles. If you have a SUV, it's just going to be that much harder.
So what I can speak to is, while it wasn't in the documentation, we were asked during a couple rounds of reviews to run a passenger vehicle. So we did run an F-150, which would run north and make that
Okay.
turn maneuver without impacting the stalls.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I didn't see that. I saw a lot of the auto turn analysis, pathing done for emergency vehicle, the garbage truck. Did not see the passenger vehicle, but assuming that you didn't have any issues or encroachment into the parking stalls, then I don't have an issue. It would just become just more of an awkward maneuver for somebody. delivery trucks. Tell me a little bit about where the deliveries would happen for this site.
One second. We got a couple truck turns I'm looking at here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, and I saw the emergency and I saw the fire truck. There was one in the middle that didn't have a vehicle, but it didn't go on the site. I didn't know if that meant that the deliveries would stay off of the formal, site.
yeah, so, yeah, agreed, it's not shown in here, but the intent would likely, they're going to come southbound, enter off of 434.
Okay,
And then,
on that new connection.
correct.
Okay,
They're done in off hours, off-peak hours, and, yeah, they get as close to the building as they can and unload, and then leave.
Do you mind using the pointer, Commissioner, so I can visualize?
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. So the conversation is that delivery vehicles would come in from 434, and come down. I guess I have a question of how close are they going to be able to get, whether they just park along here or, it is done off-peak, but it is done during business hours, or at least I've seen the delivery trucks there at 6:30, somewhere thereabouts in the morning. So at that time, that's when the drive-throughs are open for breakfast service. I just want to understand how the delivery trucks would navigate through, how they get in and out, and make sure that it doesn't cause any operational issues.
Sure. So two things I'll note here. The deliveries, they are done at 2 a.m. They're done overnight. And then while we don't have an actual delivery vehicle run, the closest thing is probably going to be the fire engine, which has about a 50-foot length to it. And we show the fire engine pretty much circulating through the entire site, getting up against the facade without encroaching into any of the parking stalls. But the quick answer is they're done when they're closed, so they have the entire parking lot at their disposal.
I doubt you would want me to make a condition that deliveries cannot happen during business hours. I understand that some of them are, but I have seen, I frequent Chick-fil-A's enough to know that they do happen during,
Sure.
after they're open in the mornings.
So Sunday would be a good day.
Well, may I make maybe a suggestion, just in case some of those unexpected deliveries may happen during business hours? If you can see, there's a dumpster that's located just south of the building there. So maybe it's something that we can work, right? There's a dumpster in the dumpster pad.
Are you talking about the ones
Oh,
here?
no.
Or,
Yes, sir.
okay,
My alternative solution would be if there are deliveries that may be happening, smaller box trucks and stuff like that, we would work with the store owner to have the delivery trucks be parked right there where they are not impacting the customer cars or the drive-through traffic, but more so just use that part and have the operations manager organize the timings of those deliveries and making sure that, they have cones or whatever out there during those times.
yeah. And quite honestly, Tara Lynn, would this be a private road or would this be public?
I think we said that was going to be a private road.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
the second crossing site.
okay. So going back to my initial thought was, it may be a little bit of a walk for the delivery driver, but I think I would feel more comfortable having a truck park along the road in order to, and they happen early enough in the morning, there's not going to be a lot of traffic. The retail site here isn't open. So I think we can make it work. I wanted to make sure that I at least brought it up so that there is some thought on how that would happen when you have the larger vehicles make deliveries.
Yes, sir. And just to clarify too, the larger vehicles, their delivery is going to take place at 2 a.m. when the stores close.
Okay.
So when the larger vehicles are coming in, no one's going to be there, only the employees. But what I had suggested previously is that during the store hours, just for the smaller delivery trucks, we would utilize the dumpster area and that striped out area as just a landing place for the delivery trucks to park.
And in the drive-through lane, there are two queues that happen. There's one queue that happens when you waiting to pick up your order at the pickup window. The other queue happens at the order board. Where is the order board on this site? I didn't see any note that shows it.
It's hard to see, but it's right here. This appears to be, right, this is the canopy where.
Oh, okay. I did not see that canopy. Oh, there is a dash line around there, isn't there? Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. It was hard to tell if that was a utility line or something else.
Isn't the canopy on the other side of the building?
Okay. So then you're saying the canopy to take the orders is right here and the order board is here, or you have the staff team members come out and take the order there?
It's on the other side of the building.
Oh, wait, it is?
Based on the rendering, it would be that darkened area.
The canopy over there.
Okay, so this is the canopy to pick up your food. The canopy to order the food, they're saying, is right here.
Okay.
So which makes sense, because if you have a queue of vehicles waiting to pick up, they have this amount of space to do so. And then when you place the order here, you would have this amount of space to queue in. Would that be correct?
That's accurate. And the distance between the pickup window and the order area is approximately 272 feet.
Okay. So pretty much halfway.
Is there a way to exit the drive-through area if the wait's getting too long and you're impatient and you want to leave?
It's never long.
Doesn't look like it.
It's never long at Chick-fil-A.
You're a captive orderer.
So since Chick-fil-A is the one that is going to be constructing that connection to 434, is there I would make the recommendation to add a condition for the FDOT correspondence with the intent to approve for this particular site. Is there any objection to that?
Right. No objection, but.
Okay.
Yeah, just for the record, I believe that one of the conditions, condition number 6 actually requires the FDOT permit.
Okay.
Yep.
What is the timing of that?
Prior to building permit issuance?
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. And I think I have one last site-related question. Same question as I had asked for the Ace Hardware, the parking stalls that are in front of the site. If there's no wheel stops, then the sidewalk between those parking stalls and the building shall be a minimum of 7 feet.
Correct. We currently show 12 feet.
Okay. That's actually all I have. So, any other questions or discussion? Okay.
If you don't have any stops, then the spaces you're driving up to the building, you have this long sidewalk, fine and dandy, but how high is it? Are you gonna run your bumper into it, or what?
In my car, yes.
It's typically 6 inches in height.
Okay, well, I have an SUV, so that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, and in that case, if there's no other discussion, I will open this one up to public input. Anybody wishing to speak on the Chick-fil-A? Please state your name and address.
David Hamstra, Pegasus Engineering, Winter Springs, stormwater consultant for the city. Rachel, I want to answer some of your questions you had. The pond that failed in Tuscarora Crossings was unique. It was not because of a storm event. It actually just failed like at 6 o'clock at night, no rainfall. We have since discovered it's more of a construction defect than it was stormwater related. We also went back and forth with Wes and his consultants from day one on what they were allowed to discharge at Michael Blake, their one connection point, to make sure they don't tax the system from their point to the pond, and they've agreed to acquiesce and allow the discharge rate to be predicated on what the storm sewer system can handle. So we, the city, is very comfortable. There's not going to be no hardship on the pond itself with the construction of Chick-fil-A or Sutton Crossings. So,
Can I ask a question, or is it just public input? I have one more question/concern.
I think you can ask the question. I mean, while he's coming up under public comment, really, you're commenting on behalf of the city. So I think you can ask a
I wanted
question.
to clarify before
Yeah.
it's back on the Ace Hardware piece, but I'm extremely concerned with the comment that the impervious pavement has been removed because of the drainage report, including calculations for the storage capacity. It looked like it was quite significant on the storage capacity, and so I'm very concerned that we're going to be overloading that pond if we're not addressing those storage concerns.
so we did go back and forth for quite a bit with Wes's original consultant and their new consultant to make sure that we were not putting the burden on Tuscarora Crossings. It was a tight site. You know, they had to go back and forth between traditional ponds, underground storage. I will concur with the engineer record. I've been doing this for 40 years. Pervious pavement or porous pavement, if not properly vacuumed and maintained,
Agreed.
it really doesn't work well. But I'm confident with the extra geotech work they did, that there's sufficient capacity to, when they leaves the property, that our system, the city system, can handle it to the pond. And so I'm standing here as behalf of the city that we're good, that there's going to be no increased impact to the city's pond downstream. So,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you very much. Now that we're good and hungry about hearing Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other public input? Seeing and hearing none, we will close public input. And once again, I will be asking for a motion. We talked about a number of things. As long as the board is comfortable with the discussion of the delivery, the circulation with that awkward turn into the site. We did talk about the windows that are facing 434. What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I know you just can't design buildings with windows wherever you want them because of the hurricane wind load and the requirements for loading on the brick. So I don't have a problem with the windows the way they are. If they want to lower them a little bit, they'll have to look at the load factor on the glass. Other than that, I don't have a
Those are,
problem. with
yeah,
it.
those are faux windows, though.
Those are faux windows, I know, but they're still part of the design.
So are you making a motion?
What's behind the windows? Are they just exterior glass on top of
Brick?
brick, or?
We don't know the answer to that. I think what we can say, I'm sorry that our architect is not here tonight, but what we can say is that between now and city council, I'm sure we're happy to discuss like any aesthetic changes that you've discussed here tonight. And see if there's...
If they're just glass on the outside of brick, then the brick is taking the loading.
Yes,
Not
and
a problem.
yeah, and unfortunately, we don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Oh, and one other item that I forgot, we did talk about the monument sign as well.
Right, right.
So I just want to just summarize some of the topics that we discussed as we consider motion for this agenda item.
Are we going to leave them with their request for 2 monument signs?
That's up to whoever makes the motion, and then we can decide through vote.
They're not next to each other, so I don't have an issue with where they're going to be.
Anyone? We
Mr.
can
Chair,
accept it as it is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I had also written down the color was also a topic of
Right.
discussion.
Brick color, yeah.
Okay, so what is the pleasure of the board? We can just say no to the entire thing.
Well, I can make a motion that we accept the proposal with the stipulations from the city, and we can ask them to look at the color, and they can make changes between now and the actual commission hearing if they bring it
Yeah,
back.
if it helps temper things, again, what we're doing is we're making a recommendation, and we can recommend that the commission, consider these things as well.
Okay.
So
Well, I would,
we don't have to make a motion that says we want this, or,
no, I'd make a motion that we accept what they proposed and include the recommendations we had on the side for them to look at.
with respect to what, all of those?
Yeah. Yeah, the turn in, the cutting
Okay,
in the
so
parking lot, the signs.
With
the
brick color, the window sizes
Right.
on the facade facing 434,
Because we don't have the architect here to speak to it.
delivery vehicles. I think I'm comfortable with the language for the FDOT permit, and circulation turning into the site. So your motion, again, I'm sorry, is recommendation for approval with the city's conditions as stated, and consideration, asking the commission to consider
Those items that we brought up.
brick color,
Right.
window size on the 434 facade, FDOT permit, I'm crossing out,
Access to the parking lot from the cut-in
okay, and the
and the monument.
monuments, whether we are recommending just one monument sign or 2. Kristen, is that acceptable?
Yes, I think that's acceptable. You can make the recommendation specifically that they consolidate to one monument sign.
So we didn't do that with Ace Hardware, did we?
We did not.
Wouldn't be fair to do it to one and not the other.
The applicant said they had no issue with doing one sign.
Yeah.
if that's an issue.
People will know there's a Chick-fil-A.
So you made the motion, so what would you like?
I'll go ahead and put in that we recommend the consolidation into one sign, one monument sign.
Okay.
People will
And-
know there's a Chick-fil-A. They will find it.
And again, this is, the motion is a recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
Can we just have clarity on the motion one more time?
Motion would be a recommendation to approve with the conditions outlined by the city, as well as asking the commission to consider the brick color, window size on the facade on 434, consolidating the monument sign to one location, and delivery vehicles.
There was the turn-in.
Did you mention the
Turn in.
circulation?
Oh, yeah, circulation and the turn-in from the south
really
into the
tight.
site. Yeah, but, I mean,
It's doable.
yeah, so, those things.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Are we in
Roll call,
discussion?
please.
Or we go right-
Oh, is there discussion?
Well, I guess this is just a question that I have is, this is my first opportunity to look at something with a motion that has this many details in it that we're moving to the commission to hear. And I'm just kind of curious, like, I mean, at what point do we, just want to hear this again? Rather than have to come up with this very potentially confusing, recommendation for approval. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of details in here that the board
Yeah.
relies upon us to oversee, and that there's a solid recommendation for approval that comes before them. I mean, I have no issue with voting in favor for this. I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, and,
Where we fish or cut bait,
yeah, and,
so to
and
speak.
to be, to your point, and to be quite honest, I don't know what the resolution would be for the circulation and turn. What are we asking the applicant to do? I'm fine with the fact that, I was fine with the fact that the auto turn analysis was done for a large truck and that it worked fine. And the delivery, it is what it is. This site is pretty compact. What would we be asking them to do? Would there be a delivery bay created on that new road where the truck would be? Well, I mean, that's going to be a little bit of a hike for the truck driver to deliver all the, goods. They're going to probably just come on site somehow or another anyway. So,
Do you want to just take those off and say, okay, we brought it up as discussion, and now they know there's a concern, but it's not a dying concern? The commission can approve it even if they don't do any changes? I mean,
Yeah,
it's gonna,
I mean, all to say that, so the other three that we have is the consolidation of the monument sign, the window size, and the brick color. And there's a clear direction for each of those.
Right.
Yeah.
And the remaining items are things that staff
They're-
will work with the
yeah.
applicant on.
working out.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. No,
so
I get it.
we did have a motion and a second. Do we need to get a vote and say if we wanted to amend that, to basically strike that down, to come up with another motion?
Or I can modify the first motion, can I?
If so, technically, once it's seconded, it
Right.
belongs to
Oh.
the whole board. However, if there's consensus to just rescind that motion, everyone's okay with that, that's permitted. If there's
is there
consensus,
any-
and then kind of start new.
Okay. Is there any objection to rescinding and revising the motion?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So, once again, can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion that we accept the proposed Chick-fil-A as proposed with the city's
Conditions.
Conditions. And the recommendations that we've got left are
Brick color.
the brick color, the monument sign down to 1, and what was the other one?
The window size.
Oh, and the window size to be consistent on all sides of the building.
Okay, we
I'll
have a
second that
motion,
one.
and we have a second. Okay. Oh, I'm almost afraid to ask, but is there any discussion? Okay. Can we get a vote, please?
Yes, sir. Chairperson Ma,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Ferranti,
Aye.
Board Member Hood,
Aye.
Board Member Macon,
Aye.
Board Member Halal.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes.
You thought we're technical and maybe a little anal, but most of us are engineers.
Oh, you don't say.
You get that, yeah.
Yes, thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to, there's nothing under the regular agenda, so therefore we,
Did we need minutes to approve?
No, that was done last time. At the next regular meeting, we'll do, this is
Yeah.
a special meeting.
we will open it up for the final public input. Seeing and hearing none, we will close final public input and adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it's only 12 o'clock, we're good.